And I'm joined now by one of those Democrats, Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett and LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. I will start with you on that question of the sergeant at arms coming after, or at least in theory being able to now come after you guys. So Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett, what do you make of that? Are you concerned about being arrested if you were to touch down in the state of Texas?
Yeah, so first of all, it's good to see you, Joy, and thank you for having me. As it relates to my fear, I can't really afford to be scared. When I know that I walk in my position only because of those that came before me, such as John Lewis, I had the pleasure of being with two of his brothers today. I can't be worried about that. All I've got to do is continue to fight for democracy, and that's what I plan to do. That means that I will not be voluntarily going to the floor. Now, if a law enforcement officer attempts to use any sort of force against me, I am a civil rights lawyer, and I do believe that that would be a violation of my constitutional rights, and that would be excessive force.
That is good to hear. LaTosha, let me let you hear a little bit of State Senator Alvarado. This was the filibuster that she launched for 15 hours in the state Senate in Texas.
My friends, voter suppression anywhere is a threat to democracy everywhere. As we draw this discussion to an end, it is my sincere hope that simple acts by everyday Texans, from the Senate floor to the ballot box, can help to shed the light on all important issues. What do we want our democracy to look like? Do we want our state to be more or less inclusive?
You know, LaTosha, I feel like the Texas Democrats have done everything possible to try to save democracy in that state. Everything from risking arrest, leaving the state, epic filibusters. They've done it all. You've been spending a lot of time with freedom riders lately in your work. How can D.C. Democrats affirm the sacrifice and the commitment? What should they be doing to match the commitment that we're seeing out of Texas, in your view?
You know, thank you for raising that, Joy. And I do want to acknowledge and lift up the Texas Democrats. I mean, that is the kind of representation we need, that they would literally be able to they left their families for over a month, their jobs, their places. And so I think we need to really recognize the kind of great sacrifice that they're making, because they understand what is really at stake. And so if the Texas Democrats could do it, what we're looking at in the Senate right now, we have to have federal legislation. There should not be a recess. But we're talking about the vote being under attack right now. And so we need to see the Senate Democrats pass right now, using their power, where that means breaking the filibuster, to literally pass legislation that will protect the right to vote. And right now, we're being held hostage. The Republicans are holding democracy hostage. They're doing it on three different levels. They're doing one level where they're undermining the process of who has access to the ballot. They're weaponizing the administrative process. And now they plan on even taking the redistricting process. They're in control of the redistricting process for 20 states, opposed to the Democrats have 11 states, although that there are more Democratic voters. And so we expect them to be able to crack. They're going to do some cracking around this. So we have to really recognize that democracy is really being attacked from a party that refuses to create an agenda that would attract more Americans. So they decided that they're going to cheat instead.
And, we're talking about this on the day that we get the gerrymandering or the census results that are going to be used to gerrymander states like Texas that's already majority minority, as they say. You were, I believe, at Representative Crockett. The Poor People's Campaign delivered demands to Washington today that align with what we just heard LaTosha Brown say. I want to let you listen to Bishop Marianne Budde, who spoke at the Poor People's Campaign event today. And this was at the Supreme Court.
Those who are entrusted with power are given such privilege and responsibility. We should go to bed each night quaking in our beds for the responsibilities that we hold. How can we tell the leaders of this country that their role is to be compassionate and just? If they don't know that, then we must bring power to them to persuade them that it is time.
What I loved about that, Representative Crockett, is that A lot of what I worry about is that Democrats in D.C. have sort of siphoned this off as an issue just for Black people, right? And this is an issue that is far broader than that. That was an ecumenical group of people from all faiths and all races. This is not a niche issue. Can you sort of walk us through that? Because this is an issue about democracy in general in this country.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because you mentioned the census, which I quickly want to let you know that a quick review of the census for the state of Texas shows that 95% of the growth in the last decade was people of color. Now, I want your listeners to just keep that in mind and put that in context for what's going on. She was right. This is really a moral issue. It's not a partisan issue. The Republicans want to pretend like it's the Democrats or that it's just Black folk, but it's not. It's about what's right, what's wrong. It's about our democracy, a democracy that seemingly they only believe in so long as it means that they're in power. Once they're not in power, they want to change their tune and say, well, wait a minute, that's not what it is. You guys are running some stuff that's lacking in integrity, when we know that that's not true. Because the facts just don't add up. And honestly, no one has addressed why 24-hour voting somehow is less secure. And honestly, if you believe that 24-hour voting was less secure, then why didn't you come up with something to actually cure the security of it instead of just deciding I'm going to shut it down? What it is about making sure that our floor continues to look the way that it is, which is full of older, white men. And that is not what Texas looks like.
And that is the irony, LaTosha, because while this is an issue for democracy in general, the targets that they intend to push out of the voting booth look like this panel, look like brown Americans, look like indigenous people. As you just heard from the representative, the targets are our votes. And so it is people like yourself. It is Black Voters Matter, Black women that are having to put themselves on the line to try to save this democracy. I'm just going to give you the last word.
You know, I absolutely believe that at the end of the day, when you're talking about believing in democracy, they don't believe in democracy. That's a propaganda point. At the end of the day, when we're talking about a reflective democracy, there's going to require pluralism. That me as a citizen and all citizens in this country, regardless of whether they're Republican or Democrat, should have access to the ballot to vote. And so they do not stand for that. They are politically corrupt, and we have to call it what it is. This is political corruption 101.
This is a 911. Amen. And there should not be a recess. Come on, Democrats. If the Texas Democrats can do it, if they can fight on the level that they're fighting. Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett, LaTosha Brown, two of the heroes of our democracy right now. Thank you both. And still ahead.